These are not innocent British families, for God's sake. Mummy and Daddy wanted to destroy us, to literally blow us up. And with our security at threat more than ever before, I've never felt more despondent to have Starmer in number 10. A man who cares more about jailing patriots who sent an impertinent post on X or Facebook after the Southport massacre than protecting our borders from known enemies who have already betrayed us. But now, the uncancelled interview. And today, I am absolutely delighted to be joined by the financial economist, defence expert, author, political commentator, former MEP for UKIP, and now, believe it or not, YouTuber. He's doing brilliant stuff online, Godfrey Bloom. Godfrey, so great to have you here. You're obviously a defence expert. How worried should we be that all of these jihadists might use the fall of Assad in Syria to engineer a return to our shores?
Well, I'm worried, but I don't know that I've... by the way, thanks for inviting me, Dan, I should say, to be polite.
Great to have you.
Thank you very much indeed. But I was worried up to now because we know that they're pouring into the country anyway. And they were pouring into the country under the last government. We don't know who they are, how many of them are jihadists. They come in boats, we don't have a clue, and they're being spread around the country in hotels. And some of them have been quite upfront about how they hate this country's system, and they are religious zealots. But then we mustn't be surprised when we look at Keir Starmer, who has really hated this country all his life. So we have a prime minister who hates his country. And I sometimes wonder how these people climb the greasy pole of politics. It's quite clear that this government don't like this country or its institutions or its people. And the last one wasn't that much better, let's be brutally frank. If you look at the immigration statistics under Sunak and his predecessors, it seems to me that nobody likes this country who is in politics. So you find if you are an old-fashioned patriot, and I use that word because I am one, it's pretty obvious I am one, it seems to me that that's passed out of fashion in our political life, and I think that's a great shame.
But Godfrey, it's more than a great shame, isn't it? It's chilling, it's terrifying, it's sinister. Starmer hasn't even tried to hide it. He said that he preferred Davos to Westminster.
I picked up on that as soon as he said it. And of course, that was an interview with Emily No-Mates. And it
I love that.
And nobody picked up on it as quickly as they should. And of course, the second question from good old Emily, don't we love the BBC? It should have been, well, why are you striving so hard to get into Parliament when you obviously don't give a shit about it? You think it's all here in Davos. Why would people give you their support in order to get into their Parliament, which is hundreds and hundreds of years old? And it's the linchpin of our democratic society. That question wasn't asked. And neither you nor I, nor most of the watchers of your channel will be surprised at that.
I know. It's truly worrying. It's truly worrying. Do you have any hope, Godfrey, that Trump and Trump's election might shift the Overton window a bit, might change the geopolitical outlook?
I'm not too sure. I'm not comfortable with his lineup. He's got some good people. Trump has brought some good people on board, and that's interesting as well. But as when it comes to the, if you will, pro-war Washington neocons, I don't think he's cleaned out the stables properly yet by this alignment. I was hoping he would be a little bit more radical.
Yeah. I mean, he's certainly been more radical than 2016. But not enough, you think?
You can't always, what he says and what he actually then does aren't always the same thing. sometimes he says good things and does bad things, and sometimes he says bad things and does good things, and we're not going to know until he's in power. But of course, this is true of democratic politics. We've seen that in Italy, haven't we? Where the Prime Minister there came in talking a very good story and then abandoned all her positions. So we saw that in Italy. We've seen it in this country when we saw a firm hand on immigration from the Conservative Party, who did exactly the opposite. It seems to me, what I don't understand, it's a failing, I think, in representative democracies, that people can say what they like to get elected, and then when they're elected, they can go back on it. I tell you what I'd like to see, Dan. I would like to see a political party manifesto set in law. So there would be a legal position if they stood on one thing, if they stood on one policy or a series of policies, and they then abandoned them within almost months, that they would then be legally liable, as in contract law. I don't actually believe that you need new law, just contract law under the law of the land, under common law and statute law and commercial law. So really now, of course, the country should be suing the socks off Starmer, taking his house, and we should take his car, and we should take his natty suits, and we should do the same to predecessors. I'd like to root out the Conservatives who did the same thing. So, yeah, there are things that we can do. It seems to me that we don't do them. One of the big problems we have, and nobody knows better than you, Dan, is that we do not have a free press. We no longer have a free press. The newspapers are all owned by the same people. They're edited by the same people. And television is run by the same people. So there's no voice. And of course, most political views in the country, if you say, and arguably you might argue, 80% of people in this country believe whatever propaganda is pushed down their throat. They watch the BBC, they watch Sky TV, they only pay half attention, they don't really listen to anything. Most don't engage with politics at all. That's particularly true in local government, but it's also true of elections. That was a pitiful turnout, the worst since 1926, I think it was. So people don't engage in politics, which is why the Mayor of London keeps on getting returned, only 30% turnout. So really, these people bring it on themselves. But I must say one thing in their defense, because I have been one by and by. If you believe none of the above, if you believe every damn jack of them are scoundrels, you don't vote for the least worst. Stay at home. And that's what I've done. And I have been advocating for many years there should be a formal counted box, not a spoilt vote. None of the above. It should be at the top of the thing, or at the bottom of the thing, none of the above, and you can put your cross by it. And I can tell you what, and I'm sure you and your viewers would agree to this, you would find the massive majority of people put a cross by none of the above.
It would become the biggest movement in British political history, I'm sure.
As most of you know, my work is very heavily independently research-based. And I get my information from all over the world. It would help if you press the subscribe button and the little bell next to it, because the more subscribers I have, the more likely it is that international independent research institutes will share their material with me. It's most helpful, and then of course I automatically share it with you. So, surprise, won't cost you anything. Thank you very much.